Hey, what are you going to do when there's no more Bitcoin left to buy at these prices?
Same thing I do when they're out of eggs, complain and pay double next week.
Bitcoin supply is running out. What's your strategy?
Ignore it until my financial advisor tells me it's a good time to buy at $1 million.
Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist. What's your move?
Wait until there are none left on exchanges, then complain it's too expensive. If there's no more Bitcoin left to buy under $1 million, what's your plan?
I'll just read about how I missed it again.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing great today. We did have an interesting week for Bitcoin because Bitcoin did actually hit a new all-time high. It wasn't really sending off the bells and whistles like the last time because it was really only $1,000 higher than the previous high. But nevertheless, we did in fact get $124,000 for Bitcoin, followed immediately by a 5 to 6% pullback, depending on which exchange you were looking at, right? Now, why did this happen? What gives? There are investors that are scared. This could be like a double top or something of that nature. But there also was something else that we did speak about last week that shouldn't be any surprise. And if you are trading this unemotionally, then you might want to refer to the old saying of show me the charts, I'll tell you the news. And the charts were showing that we had the CME futures gap. And in order to close this gap, because we had the gap down here, that was sort of around the $118,400 level. Although the interesting thing, as you guys can see, is we did, come down here. We came back up, but then we fell below it. And what's interesting is it actually acted as a bit of resistance. So is this something that we should be concerned about? Are we now looking into another prolonged, dragged out period for Bitcoin where Bitcoin's just going to go down? Is this the end? Well, we've gone over the signals and all the indicators. There's nothing stressing the fact that we've hit the top. But we should talk about what's happening right now. Why did this happen? I'm sure you already heard, but we did in fact have PPI inflation higher than expected at 3.3, expectations 2.5, core PPI 3.7, expectations 2.9. So this is a very hot rate, inflation reading, it says right here, since March of 2022. Is this making the dream of the rate cuts fade out, right? Is the Fed now in an interesting position? Because another detail we can look at is the Federal Reserve reverse repo has reached its lowest levels in more than 4 years. Now, just to kind of put this into perspective, could this be short-term, a little bit detrimental? Possibly, right? Maybe they are going to be a little bit more cautious, but historically speaking, this is more like the yellow light sort of, on a stoplight. It's not green or red. It's not go or stop. It's kind of just, hey, we should pay attention to this. But more than likely, you are eventually going to see those cuts. And although we did at first see the predictability of the cut being, when is the meeting? The meeting is in 33 days from today. This had actually been up around 94, 96. It fell to about 80 something, and now we're back at 90.8. So it appears as if maybe the markets aren't really as freaked out as they had seemed at first, right? But the issue that we do need to talk about is this very important trend line. Now, over on this Femex chart, we had this drawn out, and I had talked about the very importance of this trend that had formed, right? Because at this point, we now have 1, 2, and 3, right? And once you have 3 points of contact, that is when you officially have created a trend line, or at least that's how I was taught. Maybe you know something I don't. And you could see that we are sort of heading down to that area. We would like to see Bitcoin hold on this area, which if we were to come straight down today would be $115,000. But here's the thing. Even if this trend line was to break, we still have a lot of resistance that could potentially be flipped in support around the $112,000 area down to maybe the 109. It's sort of a box, right? Anywhere in this area would be acceptable. And what would that be as a pullback from the absolute top to the absolute bottom? That would be about a 12% pullback. So even if you had seen Bitcoin go down to about that $109,000, $100,000 and even $8,000 area, I would still be considering that another buy the dip opportunity in this bull trend, which it is a bull trend. It is a constructive pattern. We are having higher highs and higher lows. Until that pattern is broken, you can't really start being full-on long-term bearish yet. It would be, if you want to take profits, that's up to you. But as far as the actual bull run is concerned, there's no reason to actually be I guess, right, concerned about that. I mean, for one thing, the president has been very bullish, right, this whole administration on crypto. And although maybe we haven't quite gotten what they wanted from this strategic Bitcoin reserve, the president has said multiple times, not only that he's not happy with the Fed, but that the traditional financial system is broken and that crypto could potentially be that solution.
Many Americans are unaware that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state-of-the-art crypto technology. Who would have thought we would have been saying that?
So could it all just be a bunch of talk? Well, possibly. You know, you never know what politicians you can or can't trust at the end of the day. That's why Bitcoin's motto is trust, don't verify. But the other thing on people's mind is what's been happening with Ethereum. We saw a massive surge in Ethereum. I actually had a few people reach out to me. Hey, I've been holding Bitcoin for a long time. I feel like I'm missing out on the Ethereum boat. What should I be doing? Well, actually, I have a pretty strong opinion on that. But let's look at the chart real quick. This is the Ethereum chart. And you could see back here, Ethereum made its high at around, what was it? Back here, it was around $4,384. That was May of 2021, roughly, if I'm looking at this correctly. Yes, that is the full chart. And zooming in over here, we have come very close to that area, but we haven't quite broken above it. So really what Ethereum has been doing is trending between sort of $4,000 down to around this $1,000 area. And you can see the heart line here perfectly acting as resistance and support. And you could say maybe this was the area to buy right here this year. But again, comparing that to Bitcoin is something else. And if you do want to know my opinions on Ethereum, or at least what I am doing with my Bitcoin, am I selling Bitcoin for Ethereum? Am I buying Ethereum spot right now? Well, I actually am going to let you guys know that you can go over to Levex. There is a content creator tab. And if you guys sign up using the link below, you don't have to trade, you don't have to deposit anything, but they have a content hub where I actually will post, before my video tomorrow, I will post my thoughts on Ethereum if you're interested. I'll let you know what I'm doing. And just as an example, just to show you some of the value, this is a content highlight. This was from March 24th, okay? And I said the hash ribbon flashed by. We still need to get through the rest of the weeks for confirmation. This means that Bitcoin could trade sideways or even down in the short term, but we most likely would not go back to below 76,000 ever again. 85% chance historical hit rate. And as you guys could see, again, this was posted. This is the highlight comment on March 24th. And if you guys did in fact buy Bitcoin, pretty much when I made this post, you would be sitting pretty well right now. But of course, that is exclusive content over on Levex, so I will leave that link below in the description. And just also, guys, a friendly reminder that the Femex, we do have a 21 days left on this. You can get up to, this says $1,300, but there's actually $6,100, and you can get VIP access for up to a month. So that's pretty cool as well. And if you, by the way, if you were trading Ethereum, just so you guys know, MetaSignals actually called this on the 3rd as a potential long, and I'm not trying to shill here, but that was basically the bottom. That was a beautiful, beautiful setup for Ethereum. So if you guys did check that out, all of those links are below in the description of this video, link popping up above as well. But if you do want to check out all of those, MetaSignals is amazing. And we also have those Levex content exclusive creator. So check that out, guys. But the thing that kind of upset people yesterday was the fact that we had the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent coming out talking about Bitcoin, but the way that he worded it had some people concerned.
We've also started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we are going to use confiscated assets and continue to build that up. We're going to stop selling that. I believe that Bitcoin reserve at today's prices is somewhere between 15 and 20 billion.
So we had all this talk about a big Bitcoin strategic reserve. He says that they're definitely gonna, have this reserve, and then all of a sudden this video comes out, we're gonna use confiscated Bitcoin. So was that just him referring to the fact that we have used confiscated and might use in the event that we come across it? Well, I definitely don't think it means they're going to start confiscating Bitcoin. That would be ridiculous, right? So I think some people might have took that a little bit out of context, or at least let's hope that that's taken out of context. But he did clarify Bitcoin that has been finally forfeited to the federal government will be the foundation of the strategic Bitcoin reserve that President Trump established in his March executive order. In addition, so this is the part where I think we have to pay attention to. Treasury is committed to exploring budget-neutral pathways to acquire more Bitcoin, to expand the reserve, and to execute on the president's promise to make the United States the Bitcoin superpower of the world. Now, you've had people like Senator Lummis coming out saying, well, why don't we re-hypothecate some of the gold? Because the gold is not going up as fast as the Bitcoin is, right? So that would be a budget-neutral way to do it. However, up until this point, they have not made comments on that either way. But again, we're in crypto world. Everything that we look at is much faster, much quicker, much more intense and volatile than how the real world works. I don't think that they're not going to go through with this. Just unfortunately, we're not going to see it at the rate that we want to. The same way that we had all this ETF hype on the day, price crashes 30%, everyone's upset. But as I had said to you previously, it's going to take time, right? That took about 6 to 8 months before we started even really seeing the effects of the ETF. And what happened? We went from $45,000 to a brand new all-time high of $124,000. Time in the market is better than trying to time the market. That's the old saying. Now, of course, there's some conspiracies. You know, for example, what are the chances that all these things happen in the same day? Treasury Secretary goes on national TV before markets open and says they won't buy Bitcoin. Biggest red candle of all 2025, which, by the way, it wasn't the biggest red candle. It was a large one. It was up there, but it wasn't the biggest red candle that we've ever had. Nakamoto merger closes, and then Bessent comes out and clarifies via a tweet that they are, in fact, still looking to buy some Bitcoin, right? And if we look over here, Bitcoin accumulation demand reaches its highest level ever. So this is where retail tends to get stomped out. You have the accumulation on the addresses reaching all-time high. You also have supply getting very low, and then you have people freaking out and selling their Bitcoin, right? Well, I mean, just look at what you're seeing. I mean, you could see right here, hedge fund Brevin Howard just disclosed ownership of $2.3 billion worth of Bitcoin ETFs. This makes them the largest institutional holder of BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. As I said, these products are going to take time. And again, I still have people reaching out saying, I've missed the boat, I'm too late, you know, we don't have the opportunities anymore. Well, look at this right here. Baby boomers lived on easy mode and think you should work hard. In 1950, this house sold for $8,000. Today, the asking price is $1.1 million. And I like what Mitchell Askew said. Kids born in 2025 are going to feel the same way about millennials and Gen Z when it comes to Bitcoin. If you're looking for that opportunity, that generational opportunity, I'm not saying there isn't opportunities in AI. I think there are opportunities, but those are sectors. They're specific, you know, NVIDIA or other chip manufacturers, right? Or even these products that come out, and they can change, like flavors, you know, of the week, right? But Bitcoin is hard, sound money, and this is the time that the world is starting to wake up to Bitcoin. Like Zuby pointed out, median U.S. houses prices, just getting back to houses, represents the blue line since 2015. This is only 10 years ago, guys. 10 years. Not that long of a time. This is housing prices, and this is the cost of houses in Bitcoin, arguably the lowest, which shows the inverse relationship between something that I assume most people would aspire to and would like to get is a house, right? Versus what holding a really, you know, you say the inflation hedge, people are going to argue it's not an inflation hedge on the monthly or here or there or during the bear market. But when you just extrapolate the data, you look at the long term, Bitcoin is the best solution possible. In fact, even just forgetting about M2 money supply, it now represents 1.7% of the global money. So that's just the actual currencies themselves, which is pretty crazy. If you compare this to a global chart, you include M2 and derivatives and all that, Bitcoin is like a little speck. It's like a speck on the Eiffel Tower of paint, right? You can't even see it. Like I don't even know where it is, right? But over here you can see 2.4 trillion. This is not something that is a fad that just comes out of left field. This is what a lot of these countries are waking up to, and it's only a matter of time until more and more of them end up on this standard. And I'm going to give you a really interesting piece of data. I read the other day, they were comparing how many people in the world own Bitcoin versus how much Bitcoin you would need to be in the 1%. Well, the interesting thing is there is still about 95% of people who do not hold Bitcoin, by the way, which is crazy. 95% of the world still has no Bitcoin. And in order to be, and this might sound like a higher number now, I understand Bitcoin's a little expensive, but you know, if you ever had a goal to get to, if you wanted to be in the top 1% of all Bitcoin holders in the world, the top 1%, you would need to have about 1.6 Bitcoin. Now, I know that's a lot of money, but it's not impossible and it is attainable. So just think about that. If you had 1.6 Bitcoin, that's all, just 1.6 Bitcoin. I know that's a lot of money, but just think about it. That puts you in the 1%. And like Tom Lee said, what we're looking at right now is basically the equivalent of being in 1996 internet days.
And I think Bitcoin is, if you're buying Bitcoin today, it's still early. I don't think it's too late. So if you have zero exposure to Bitcoin and you feel like you missed it, 95% of investors have zero Bitcoin exposure. So you're still way ahead if you're buying Bitcoin today. If you look at Bitcoin wallets, comparing it to the internet, we're back to 1996 levels. Internet went exponential from 1996. So it's still the earliest days. I think Bitcoin is very useful because in the future, we're not going to be able to trust anything. Because cybersecurity, there's nothing secure anymore. We can sample your voice. I mean, even someone takes our voice, translates into Korean using my voice, you'll never know what's true anymore. So you need to be able to trust a system. The blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain is the most trusted blockchain. And that's why the United States wants to have 1 million Bitcoin. US companies are buying Bitcoin. Banks will soon carry Bitcoin as collateral.
Another simple way to look at it is forget about looking at all the global money in the world, forget about looking at all the currency. If you just want to look at Wall Street and just how much money is there alone, like Adam Beck points out, if they were just 2% into Bitcoin, you'd have $1 million Bitcoin. So if you can just get 2%, which it's going to happen, guys, if you can get 2% of all the capital, or all the investment money in Wall Street, that's $1 million Bitcoin right there. And that's only 2%. Imagine 5%. Imagine 10%. I think you can see where I'm going here. So no, you're not late to the party, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. And again, Bitcoin supply on exchanges is at the lowest levels that we have seen virtually ever. And yet we still have not doubled in price, right? 69K at the top, call it 70. We still haven't had a $140,000 Bitcoin. Bitcoin has not doubled. You're seeing all this demand, and yet the exchange value, the amount on exchanges are some of the lowest that they've ever been. I mean, the writing is kind of on the wall here. I mean, we got rid of Gary Gensler, right? We don't have to deal with him. And now we have a sort of pro-crypto administration, and the new SEC chair, Paul Atkins, is even making comments over on Fox about mobilizing to make America the crypto capital of the world.
So a couple of weeks ago, the administration issued the President's Working Group's report on digital assets in the United States, and there were clear directions to the SEC. We're part of the PWG, that President's Working Group, and clear recommendations for us to go forward and help make what the President has announced, his intention to make America the crypto capital of the world and have the world run on American technology. So we're mobilizing at the SEC all our different divisions and offices to focus on making that announcement become reality. So that's with our Corporation Finance Division, Investment Management, and others. We're focusing on what we can do to make the regulations of the SEC encompass the crypto assets and also make it so that people can have some clarity going forward. We're working with Congress. Obviously, the Genius Act was enacted here a few weeks ago with a big announcement at the White House by the President himself, and as he signed it. So that, I thought, was a very good step forward. And now there are other bills in Congress that are being considered, and when they return from their recess, I look forward to much more forward progress.
So I just want to go over some quick Bitcoin charts and analysis, and then we will get on out of here because I know you guys want to hang out. It's the weekend. You want to have some fun. But if you are interested in hearing about what I think about Ethereum and what I'm doing right now, definitely check out LevX. You could sign up for free. I'm going to post an extra video over there, and I want to explain something that a lot of people are not paying attention to, especially when it comes to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins. You hear a lot of the same things over and over again, but I'm going to kind of shift the perspective on that, okay? Also, getting back to the fact that MetaSignals did call this, that was really amazing. If you guys do want to check that out, they actually have a $3,000 cash back just for signing up. But talking about the chart over here, if you look at the VRVP, which is the volume range profile, you'll notice that when you see these, and I'm sorry if I'm getting some air in the mic here, I don't have a cover on it, but you could see these areas of interest, right? And when you see these large chunks right here, like these darker ones down here, you can even see, for example, this area coincides with this area, right? And this acted as sort of a foundation. And then when we came up and we built this, where did we come back down? We came back down right to the top of that area, right? And if I extend this over here, I know my drawings are sloppy, but you guys get what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to make a masterpiece over here. And then we have the second piece over here as well, which was this area, lots of volume. Now the volume range doesn't mean anything really. It means both buying and selling. It just means volume in general. But here's sort of the top of the area before we have this massive peak down here. And then after this, look where we come down, right? Basically right to the top of this. And what we're doing right now is we're sort of building another area, right? So as we have this area here, this area down here, we're building another area right here as well. And as you begin to build these, the foundation gets stronger and stronger. If you just look at the daily EMA ribbons, which is honestly one of the simplest indicators, that's one thing I'm gonna say on this channel is, we used to do 1 million indicators back in the day. Sometimes if you just keep it simple, it's so much easier. You could see right here, when we had the EMA ribbon flipping, that was the signal that we're probably in for a lot worse price action. Now, of course, this is a lagging indicator, but as you can see, once we had that inversion, we had a massive, massive fall for Bitcoin. And this was down around sort of the $74,000 area, which was very interesting because this was right around the area that I posted over on LevX saying that we had the buy signal. And what happened is we came back above it, and look at this. We had another reversion on it, flipping back to the positive side. And currently, if you zoom in right now, these are in a perfect order. We don't have any, like right here, you can start getting a little scared or something like that. Over here, this is perfect. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, anywhere down to this lowest lavender 89, down here we had the wick to 99. Where's it at today? It's about 110,000. So yeah, we were talking about 109, 108, but just the same way that we did here, it's okay to play around that area. But if you are looking to, not financial advice, of course, but if you are looking to put in a long, the first area you may want to look at is around the 114,000. Breaking below that, you would probably want to definitely put in the largest around the $110,000 area. And you can always just set them and forget them, right? You can always just set these orders for buys, or you can set them for longs over on any of the exchanges, and you don't have to force the trade. You can let the trade come to you. And ultimately this insanely wild parabolic trend that we're having honestly looks pretty freaking normal when you just put it in a parallel channel. And if we zoom in, we're basically just in the middle of the channel. We're just kind of hanging around this heart line. So nothing really too detrimental until you start potentially, putting in some of these lower low patterns, breaking sort of the $100,000 area, then we could start getting a little bit concerned. But as far as coming all the way back down to the bottom of this, 86,000, I just don't see that in the cards. I've been looking at this long-term linear trend, and we've never been able to break above it. And yet so far, we've had 2 nice supports on that area. This, of course, being the Brave Liquid Index, which takes a week to put this candle in there. But again, this is calling for around $110,000 to $111,000 Bitcoin. And even if we were down there, that would be perfectly fine. Looking at this Fibonacci extension, this is again around 109, which is still the area we could see it coming down to. Interesting thing is that we are in no man's land, and the 1.618, which tends to be a very important area, is sitting at around $132,000. So if you were looking for somewhat of a base case for Bitcoin, then $132,000 would probably be the ultimate top for the market if you're looking at one of the weakest rallies we've ever had, right? And then, of course, this brings us to Bitcoin dominance, which has been bouncing off of this uptrend, which means Bitcoin dominance has been rising. But the biggest question, are we going to end up breaking this trend and coming down here? Because that may signal that the alt season is actually about to happen. So again, getting back to how I feel about alt season, well, like I said, if you really want to go back and watch my video from several weeks ago, you already have your answer. But if you don't feel like looking into that, I again will be putting that in Levex, guys. We're about 50 subscribers away from 1,000. If we get 1,000, I will drop that video. And of course, if you guys want to know, you can get more bonuses by signing up. They have $40,000 in rewards, and just using my link alone, you can get a $1,250 bonus. So that's basically it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. There really isn't too much crazy to say. However, it is starting to show signs of something happening in the market. Biggest question being, is alt season about to happen? I do not think full-on alt season is about to happen, and I also don't think that we're going to get the alt seasons like we used to. So unfortunately, if you are new to crypto, yes, it was a little bit easier last time, and it was extremely easy in 2017. In 2017, you just bought anything. Any coin you wanted to buy, and it pumped, right? The last cycle, you had to be a little bit more selective. This cycle, I think you're going to have to be very selective because it is an extremely oversaturated market. But again, we will talk more about that again in another video. I will try to get one out tomorrow if I can. And, you know, again, we had this, if this was another one that happened the other day. This was a Meta Signals long on ARB. So if you are trading some of the altcoins, we did have all three of these that were taken. That all the take profits, and it even went above that. So, you know, obviously if you're looking for a trading edge, they also, just to let you guys know, Blowfin is doing another $1,000, and they also have copy trading. So even if you don't want to, you're not going to get all the signals. Obviously, if you want to get every single signal, you should join the free Discord. You can get them, some of them there, but there will be, or there is, copy trading right now over on Blowfin with a $1,000 bonus. And then also, there's just like a lot of bonuses going on is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, just everything's in the description. I'm not going to every video go over every single bonus that we have, but we just have a lot going on right now. So check that out in the description below, guys. Again, we do have 21 days left for FemX VIP, and that is where I'm ending the video. Tomorrow's video, I want to discuss a little bit more on what we're seeing in the altcoins and how we should be repositioning our portfolio, if we even should be doing that, and also talking about, you know, guys, at some point, especially if you're holding altcoins, when are you going to take profits? When do you sell? Because a lot of people don't have an issue making money in bull runs. They have a problem keeping that money, right? And I've been through 3 of these, guys. We're talking about almost a decade. And yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is just get subscribed, drop a like and a comment if you want, turn on the bell notification, and we will let you know. I don't have any paid groups or anything like that. All my content is free, but just make sure you get subscribed, and we will go over that. And definitely when I start to see things getting out of hand, you will be the first to know. And if you do want to learn how to trade, I'm going to make a couple more tutorials, but I do have these ones right here. If you want to check out, we do have FemX. We also have BitGet below. But that's about it for me, guys. Until next time, stay crypto. And you guys know the drill. Of course, peace out.